In this video, we are going to break this down into three distinct parts. First, we will analyze the confrontation and the specific federal laws the crew and the officer were ignoring. Second, we will watch the incredible moment the tables turn, and the officer realizes he just threatened a federal agent. And finally, stick around for the third part because we are going to do a deep dive into the numbers. We will calculate exactly how much money this officer's ignorance could cost the department in a civil rights lawsuit. I'll explain the specific damages and the payout this agent could demand for unlawful detention.
Sir, can I just please see your identity? You're not cooperating with us and making it a lot more difficult.
Yeah, I think you better back off here.
The scene opens inside the cabin of a commercial flight. The atmosphere is already tense. We have a gentleman in a green shirt seated calmly. Standing over him are a flight attendant and a uniformed police officer. The context here is critical. The passenger has already boarded the plane. This means he has already passed through TSA security and his identity has already been verified at the gate. According to the passenger, the gate agents already checked his credentials. However, the flight crew is now demanding to see his ID again. He refuses. Why? Because under 49 CFR 1540.5 and General Federal Aviation Regulations, once you are inside the sterile area and on the aircraft, you are not arbitrarily required to present identification to flight staff unless there is a specific security threat or a discrepancy in the manifest that requires resolution. Refusing a request isn't a crime. It's a right. But here enters the problem. The police officer. Watch the body language. The officer isn't asking questions to investigate. He is issuing commands to intimidate. He leans in, invading the passenger's personal space. The passenger, calm and collected, states clearly, "I showed all my credentials before I boarded the plane. I know my rights here, and you are in violation of them." This is a pivotal moment that separates a mature adult from a tyrant. A good officer would ask, "Sir, is there a reason you can't show it?" Or check with the gate agent first. Instead, this officer takes the refusal as a personal insult to his authority. He says, "You don't know what you're messing with here. You're getting in way too deep." The irony of that statement is staggering. The officer is projecting his own insecurity onto the passenger. For an audience over 25, you understand this dynamic. It's middle management syndrome. The officer believes that his badge grants him the power to override the Fourth Amendment, which protects citizens against unreasonable searches and seizure. He has no reasonable suspicion that a crime has been committed. Being difficult or rude is not a crime. The flight attendant adds fuel to the fire, claiming the plane can't take off until he identifies himself. This is a common pressure tactic, social shaming. They are trying to turn the other passengers against him by blaming him for the delay. But the man in the green shirt doesn't budge. He knows that if he reveals his identity, his undercover operation is blown. He is prioritizing national security over the ego of a local cop. The officer finally issues the ultimatum. "I'm the police. You called me. You may as well back off." He threatens to drag the man off the plane. At this point, the officer has crossed the line from a consensual encounter to an unlawful detention. He is threatening physical force to compel an action that the law does not require. He thinks he is the shark in the water, completely unaware that he is circling a megalodon.
See this? I'm undercover, all right? And you're interfering with our mission here. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
So you need to back down.
My apologies.
You understand?
We have reached the breaking point. The officer, realizing his verbal threats aren't working, decides to escalate to physical removal. He asks, "Are you asking to be escorted from the plane right now?" and mentions calling for backup. The passenger gives him one last chance to walk away, saying, "You can try that if you like, and you'll see what happens." This is the definition of talk softly and carry a big stick. The passenger realizes the situation is unsalvageable. The mission is compromised because of the incompetence standing in the aisle. He decides to end it. He stands up. In a split second, the dynamic shifts. He reaches into his shirt. Now, in a normal police encounter, an officer might react defensively to a sudden movement. But look at the confidence. He pulls out his badge and flashes his credentials. You see this? I'm undercover, all right? And you're interfering with our mission. The reaction from the officer is immediate and visceral. It's a total psychological collapse. Moments ago, he was a towering figure of authority, lecturing a citizen about not knowing who he was messing with. Now, his posture shrinks. His voice goes up an octave. The arrogance evaporates, replaced by pure panic. He stammers, "Oh, absolutely, I'm sorry about that." This is the part that is so satisfying to watch, but also deeply concerning. Why did the officer's demeanor change? Did he suddenly realize he was violating the Constitution? No. He realized he was bullying someone more powerful than him. He respects the hierarchy, not the law. The officer immediately shifts into self-preservation mode. "Don't get me fired," he pleads. This is a grown man, a public servant entrusted with a firearm and the power of arrest, begging like a child who got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. He tries to blame the flight attendant. "She gave me a call," throwing her under the bus to save his own career. FBI agent gives him the scolding of a lifetime. "You need to learn your job a little better. Assumptions make an ass out of you and me." The officer and the flight attendant retreat. The walk of shame back up the aisle is palpable. The passengers, who were likely annoyed moments ago, are now witnessing a rare event: accountability. But while the video ends with the officer walking away, the real story, the legal and financial story, is just beginning. Because in the real world, you can't just say, "Oops," after violating someone's civil rights.
Got that?
I got that, sir.
Okay.
Don't get me fired. I'm sorry.
Now let's talk numbers. The most common question I get on videos like this is, can he sue? And how much is this worth? If this man wasn't an FBI agent, if he was just a regular citizen who knew his rights and was treated this way, this would be a textbook lawsuit under 42 U.S. Code Section 1983. This is the federal statute that allows citizens to sue government officials for civil rights violations. Here is the itemized bill for this officer's arrogance. 1. Unlawful detention and false imprisonment. The moment the officer prevented the man from ignoring him, and certainly when he threatened to arrest him for not showing ID without reasonable suspicion of a crime, he committed a Fourth Amendment violation. The Supreme Court has ruled in cases like Terry versus Ohio that police need specific, articulable facts to detain you. The flight attendant is annoyed is not a crime. Estimated value. In federal court, damages for unlawful detention can range from $5,000 to $20,000 for a brief incident. But because it happened publicly on a plane, the humiliation factor acts as a multiplier. 2. Emotional distress and defamation. The officer and crew publicly insinuated the man was a criminal or a security threat in front of a plane full of people. Estimated value, $15,000 to $50,000. 3. Punitive damages. This is the big one. Punitive damages are designed to punish the offender, not just compensate the victim. Because the officer was so arrogant, ignoring the man's warnings and escalating without cause, a jury could view this as malicious or reckless indifference to the man's rights. Estimated value, $50,000 to $150,000. The qualified immunity defense. Usually, cops are protected by qualified immunity, which shields them from lawsuits unless they violate clearly established statutory rights. However, the right to not be detained without reasonable suspicion is clearly established law. This officer would likely lose that immunity shield because no reasonable officer would believe that refusing to show an ID on a plane, after being cleared by TSA, is grounds for arrest. Total estimated payout. If a civilian took this to federal court and won, the taxpayer, meaning you and me, would be on the hook for a settlement likely between $75,000 and $250,000. Plus attorney fees which could double that amount. The reality check. Since this was an FBI agent, he likely won't sue for money. He will file an internal complaint. But for the officer, this is career suicide. Interfering with a federal investigation is a serious offense. While he was begging, "Don't get me fired," the reality is he demonstrated he is a liability to his department. Conclusion. This video is a reminder for everyone over 25. Knowing the law is your best shield. The officer assumed he had the power because he had the uniform. The agent proved that real power comes from knowledge and composure. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to see more analysis of rights and the real cost of police misconduct, hit that like button and subscribe. Let me know in the comments. Do you think the officer should be fired or just retrained? I'll see you in the next one.